Hey everybody, I am here with Tamara Bennett of Southern Adoornments Decor. She and I have worked together for almost 2 years now, which is crazy. We have worked together on an OBM retainer for that entire time, and we worked together to kind of facilitate all of the back end of her business, as well as manage her remote team of about 10 people. And you also have an on-site team of probably eight-ish people.
It depends if you count the kids who technically work in the business and all that, who are not there day to day. On
Yeah,
a
yeah.
day-to-day basis, there's really only like my husband and my brother working in the wood shop. But
Okay, okay. But thank you so much, Tamara, for sitting down with me today. I am super, super grateful for you to just kind of like share your experience of working together, especially now that it's been several years, and I can't imagine my day to day without working with you either. Um,
same.
so I would just love to start by having you tell us a little bit about like your business, who you are, how you got started. Give us your life story.
Well, I'm a creative. I always have been since I was little. I've always colored or painted or made jewelry, something crafty with my hands. And several years ago, I started this business as sort of a need out of my family. We needed more income after my husband came home from deployment. We got really comfortable on that non-taxed income that you get on deployment. And when he came home, I was like, oh, I need to start a business or something, or I need to go get a job. I went out and put applications everywhere, but nothing like fit my lifestyle.
Mhm.
So I ended up starting this business so that I could use my creativity to teach others and make a little bit of money on the side. And so I started teaching paint parties in people's homes. And so it was just me in the beginning going to restaurants and church fellowship halls and setting up paint parties and teaching. But then Facebook Live started to become a thing and I started to go live. Inevitably, people from all over the country wanted to know, how are you using, that paintbrush and what colors are you using and all the questions. So the teaching just started to flow out of me. And then early in 2018, I started an online membership and it blew up right off the bat. I think it was because for about a year and a half, I'd been nurturing these people on Facebook Live teaching.
Mhm.
And so we ended up with like 400 new members on that very first launch. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm doing this by myself. I need help. And so I hired like my first VA back then. Fast forward to 2020, it blew up again. My business doubled that year. I mean, everybody's sitting at home. So what better time to learn to paint than during COVID lockdown?
Mhm.
So around then, I hired an OBM. And fast forward to now, my business has been but from 2020 till now, it's been holding steady income wise, but my expenses have gotten higher and higher every year. And I've really been trying to dial in the systems in my business and get things streamlined because for the longest time, we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to see what sticks. And we're trying to like remember what we did during the last launch, but we couldn't quite repeat the process. And so I knew that I needed to like have somebody else who was more detail oriented because as the creative, I have all the ideas, but I have a really hard time making them happen because I can have 10 ideas at once. And I love that if I tell China an idea, she'll like jot it down and then come back to it later and be like, back in the spring, you mentioned that you might want to do X. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that. I do want to do that. And so it's been amazing to have you behind the scenes helping me kind of organize all of this and keep like Asana has been a game changer to have that so organized. I was using Asana before you, but I was probably only using, you know how they say you only use this tiny percent of your brain. Imagine what you could do if you used it all. That was us with Asana.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So can you tell me, I guess you kind of covered this already, but before we started working together, what were some of the key challenges or frustrations that you had that you were kind of facing behind the scenes, and like how did that affect you personally, like both as a creative, but also just like as entrepreneurs, we are our business in a lot of ways. So like how did that affect you like as a creative, as a CEO, and like how did that play a part in your day to day?
Um, so after 2020, a couple years after that, things started to shift. People are going back to the workplace. And so um, certain parts of my business started to change and I started a subscription box. I was trying to serve people in different ways and meet them where they're at. And then on the backside, I'm having these like doubtful thoughts of like, oh, can I keep doing this? Like, what if everybody goes back to work and nobody wants to paint anymore? And we had a few launches there that just did not go well. And I think a ball was getting dropped here or there. It was like there was one whole launch, I think you remember, China, and we didn't even discover this until after you came on board, an entire launch that we didn't even email our list throughout the launch. And that's a failure like on the team side. But as their leader, I should have noticed that as well. But the OBM that I had at the time didn't catch that either. And so just having somebody who is really keeping their finger on the pulse of all of that has been a game changer. And also somebody that I feel super comfortable with coming to with my frustrations and my challenges. I don't know what it is about you, but you have a very approachable nature. And it was, I mean, within 2 to 3 months of working with you, I feel like you became my business therapist as well as my OBM.
Yeah, I've heard the term like therapy sessions with China a lot.
You definitely have a good therapy vibe. Like you're very easy to talk to and you're good at validating my feelings, but also encouraging me moving forward and stuff like that. So
Well, that means a lot. Even past like the business stuff, like just like the emotional piece of running a business is so heavy, and people who have never run a business and been a CEO, like they just don't get it. They just don't. And like that's okay. I wouldn't expect them to, but like having somebody that gets it that you can talk to is so important. And I really, really always aim to do that and be that person that you can like, I always say, like, if you need to scream into Voxer at me, like do it because, sometimes you need that. So I'm happy to know that like you feel that and you feel like you can do that with me.
and you know that like last year, my Facebook business page and ads account got hacked and we lost all of that mid-launch. So I definitely needed somebody I could cry to during that time and be like, what do I do?
I
But we
know.
picked up and moved forward and it was all okay. But it was really nice having somebody besides my family that I could lean on about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a neutral party outside the family, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. So you mentioned this already, but you did have an OBM prior to us working together. Can you share why you made hold on, let me try this again. Can you share with me why you made the decision to switch, and what hesitations maybe you had, if any, in making that switch and hiring that new person?
Yeah, I'll start with the hesitation part. I was really hesitant to switch because, when you've been working with the same person for so long, they know you, they know your business, and it's scary to hire somebody who doesn't know a thing about your business and for them to be able to like just pick up and keep and go with it.
Mhm.
And I really liked that like you kind of were in a bit of an observant role for like the first couple of weeks to 30 days while you were learning the business and all of that. And it wasn't really until about 90 days in that we really, like, you've really got a full understanding because by that point we'd gone through another launch, and so you were learning on the fly really quick. As far as reasons to switch, the former OBM, she'd been with me since the 2020 days. I mean, I needed somebody badly. And so I'm so grateful for the help that she gave me in that time because she helped me like go from doing this with just me and a VA to actually building a team. And so that was pivotal. But I think that there are people that come into your life to serve you for a certain amount of time and grow with you, but then you may outgrow them. And she had always told me, one of these days you're going to outgrow me. And I would laugh and be like, no, I'm not, but it does happen. And so she wasn't like formally trained as an OBM, but she did have like people management skills and she had a lot of knowledge about the online space. So those two things kind of worked as like a beginner OBM for me. And so when it came time to make the switch, I think I had just gotten frustrated because there were several things strategy wise that had began to fall through the cracks that I knew an OBM should know. And because she wasn't classically trained as an OBM, I was having to tell her the strategy piece. And I was at a point in my business where I needed somebody to say, this is what I think we should do, and let me just do the creative side.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. And having that space as a creative to focus on the creative is so critical, because if you're thinking about the strategy, you get wrapped up in that, I think sometimes. So having that balance and having that secondary strategy brain is really important. So I get that.
Yeah, I get bogged down in the details of it, and then it becomes overwhelming. And I tend to overcomplicate things. I remember I was just telling you a couple calls ago, help me keep it simple because I tend to overcomplicate it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like that's also just like a visionary brain thing,
Yeah.
right? That it's like we could do all the things.
All the possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like that's like me as an integrator, like I need people like you because like I always say, I'm an ideas person, I'm a strategic person, but like I need that like core piece of what it is that we're aiming towards. And like that's you, that's the visionary person, right? Then like I can say, great, we have that, we have this core idea. Here's all the different ways we could do it, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
I love that you can see every step that has to happen between point A and point B. I just see the leap. I can see like the grand finale, the thing that happened, but I have a hard time retracing the steps that we took to get there.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So after our discovery call, I'm just curious, like, what made you say yes to working with me? Like acknowledging those hesitations, knowing that, like, you're like, this person knows nothing about my business, and you talked to me for like 1 hour before you made the decision. I'm curious, like, what if anything stood out to you that you were like, this is probably the person that I want to work with, or this is the person that I want to work with.
Well, first off, I noticed how easy you were to talk to, but which we already kind of talked about that. I felt like we had a good rapport and I got like a really good feeling about you. But I also noticed like the things you were saying, the questions you were asking, you had already done a little bit of digging on my business to like say things I see that I think you could work on. Those were things that were already in the back of my mind that I knew were problems. And so the fact that you had picked them out before you even met me made me know, oh, she knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing because she's already poking holes in something that she really only knows about 10% about, you know. You didn't have the full picture. You just looked on my website, my social medias, and you were like, I see you could fix this, this, and this to do better. And I was like, yes, I need those things.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So, can you describe, like, now that we've worked together and you mentioned kind of like that 90-day process of like me coming on board and learning the business and getting acquainted, but like after that period, whenever I was able to kind of fully step into the role of integrator with you and like OBM with you, can you tell me a little bit about like how having me as that integrated part of your team, how it's affected the day-to-day operations for you versus beforehand, and like how does that feel for you, and has that created creative space for you?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of taken me away from being the person that has to talk to every person on the team. Not that I don't love hanging out with and talking to my team, but knowing that I don't know all the steps and all the details, I'm not the person they need to even be asking, you know, because I'm probably going to have the wrong answer. But I can make, because China knows, I can make a decision on a call back in March, and then by June, I've forgotten what I decided. And so if you come back to me and say, what did you decide about this? Somebody better have taken notes because I've already forgotten what my decision was on some of that stuff. And so having somebody else that my team can go to that knows what my decisions were and can help us just implement the things has been huge. It's saved us a ton of time. We're not having like weekly team meetings. We were spending an hour every week on team meetings, and we aren't doing that anymore. It feels like those team meetings, which are mainly just me and you, on Tuesdays, those feel like more higher level stuff. We're making decisions about things that are happening 2 and 3 months from now, and
Mhm,
then it trickles down to the team. So that's been really nice.
mhm.
Did I answer all of the question? I was trying to remember what the second part of your question was.
Yeah, well, I gave you a lot to answer, so that's fair. Um, so like on the day to day, how does it feel for you having
Hmm.
that kind of support, right? Like how has it shifted things for you in like your work day as CEO?
Yeah. I feel like, so let me contrast before and after. Before you, I would log into Asana. I might have a couple of tasks, but they certainly weren't like prioritized with due dates that made me know when somebody needed something. So I always felt like I was holding the team up in some way because they were waiting on me for something. And so I would often like Voxer my OBM and be like, what do you need from me today? You know, like I want to be working on whatever is priority, but I had a hard time seeing what the priority was. Contrast to now, I open my laptop every morning, or I'll just pop into Asana, you know, the night before and kind of look and see, and I can take the whole day off and go hang out by the pool today, which I plan to do after this call. But I can like log in there and see my tasks, and they all are set to today, and I can see what's for tomorrow and the next day. And if I need to shift some of those around, I can, but it's so nice for me to have that clarity of exactly what my team needs from me just today. And that feels manageable. I don't have to look at what they're going to need from me 30 days from now. I just have to focus on today. And a lot of times those things are pretty light. Some days I can be completely done with my work in 2 to 3 hours tops. Um, but if I want to take a full day and really knock a lot of it out, I can. So I love that time freedom of being able to just take the day off and go to the pool if I want to.
Yeah, and be able to know that everything is taken care of. You've done what you needed to do, so it's not then you going and sitting by the pool and thinking, "Oh my God, was there something I forgot to do?" Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's really nice to see all of that working in the background and me not having to worry about it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. Were there any specific systems or processes um, that we've implemented in the time that we've worked together that have really felt like total game changers? Or like anything that we've implemented that you're like, wow, this was like night and day in comparison to how I was operating before?
Um, I think like the way you're running my launches and having all the assets like planned out and all the details on each asset planned out, that's been a huge game changer because the last couple of launches we've done with you have felt lighter, felt smoother, felt more organized. Everything, just everybody has their role. And I like to say I'm like the dancing bear. I just show up and do my performance. I show up on Facebook Live, teach painting, whatever it is, but I don't have to worry about all the other parts of the launch. And I just know that they're all working. And so I feel like we are way more planned out in advance. Also, when it comes to like my membership content with the Painters Clubhouse, we've done a very good job at staying like up to 3 months in advance planned out on what our content's going to be, who our guest artists are going to be. And so that's taken a huge weight off of me to not have to like plan that at the last minute.
Yeah, yeah. And being able to think forward instead of just for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. Exactly. Cool. So what do you think? So your team is primarily contractors, at least for the remote team that I focus on 98% of the time. So I'm curious how you feel that they or what they would say in terms of the differences between like how we were operating before versus now. Because, like every contractor has their own style of working and every contractor has their own approach to things. But I do think for us at Southern Adoornments Decor, it's like everybody, because we work long term together, like we all like mesh really well and we all learn each other's work styles really well. But I am curious because I don't have that perspective of like how do you think that they feel now that we've made these changes and since I've come or the changes that I've made since I've come on, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think they would probably say they have a lot more clarity around their role and more ownership in their role.
Hmm.
Um, because before there was a lot of like cloudiness as to who was really truly in charge of what. And so their roles are much more defined now. They know like what there is expected of them, and they can really just take ownership over that. And so I think it's empowered them in a way, and to know that they have somebody that they can easily come to that knows the answers, you, because you've taken notes on the things I've said and whatnot. That's been really great, and I think I can feel as a part of the team that things are moving very smoothly, and if there's a problem, it seems to get solved pretty quickly
Yeah.
compared to the past.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's partially like having things documented and having things outlined in advance because like then, if you have 95% of it or even 90% of it outlined, if something goes awry, well, only that 10% can go awry, right? And it's generally a lot smaller fires that you're putting out at the end of the day rather than like a massive forest fire that takes days and days to handle, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I should have said on your previous question that I just realized was like a big change that you implemented was doing the master info docs for like our big promotions. And so the team isn't having to scratch around and try to find, oh, when is cart closing, or what is the link I'm supposed to be using, or what was the bonus for this thing. They just know that master doc has all the things in it and they can just go and check that.
Mhm.
And from my perspective, I love that like I can look at that and see that the plan is happening, that they've got I can easily trace through the details and see that you've got it covered.
Mhm.
And you have me review those so I can easily point out if there's something that's a little off. And it just feels way easier than an hour-long team meeting where we're asking those questions, which is how we used to run things. Instead of having it all clean in a master doc, everybody's taking their own notes over here and we're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. And that can lead to things like, and I'm sure you guys probably experienced this before we started working together, that it's like, well, who was going to write that email? Or am I going to do that? Or are they going to like, and it's
Yep.
all out of like the effort of wanting to get it done and done well, right? But it's to your point, it's not clear and it's not setting the team up to be empowered to do their best work because they have to do so much troubleshooting before they even get to the work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes total sense. So was there any specific like project, event, et cetera? And you kind of already said this with launches, but like where having me on the team made a really big difference. Like, hiring a team member, it could be like a workshop, it could be membership, it could be whatever. Is there anything that you were like, holy crap, this was like night and day?
The hiring process, I feel like when we had to hire a new ads manager, a new community manager, I mean, you've helped me do lots of hiring in the last couple of years, but like that process, I can just be like, yeah, we need that. And you go and headhunt the person that we need. And you've done the interviews and you give me the recordings to the interviews. So if I want to sit and watch the entire interview, I can, but I don't have to. Like you have given me, like now that we've been working together long enough, I feel like I can trust your judgment on if you say, I don't think this person's a good fit, or I think this person is a good fit because XYZ. I don't even have to go watch the full interview. I can usually just see what you say and go off of that. So that feels like night and day difference as far as a business owner. That's a huge weight off of me not to have to go try to find somebody, write up a job description and do all of that work to
Yeah.
get somebody new on our team.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so happy that you feel that way because I always say, especially with hiring, like you can be as involved or not as involved as you want to be, right? Because it takes, I think, everybody just as a whole, if you haven't done a lot of hiring, like you really underestimate how much time it actually takes, right? Like how many hours do you spend writing the job description? How many hours do you spend reviewing the applicants? How many hours do you spend actually interviewing the applicants? And then like the time that you have to take to just like process the conversations you've had, test projects if you're doing them. Like it's way more than just like I need a VA and I'm gonna hire one, So I'm happy that you feel that comfortable like knowing that I not only have it handled, but you can be involved if you want to be or not, right?
Yeah. And on a deeper level, because you are more detail oriented than I am, if I'm the one doing the interviews, I'm probably going to go off of, oh, I love her personality. She would fit with us great. And while team culture is important, that's not the only thing that's important. And so I need somebody who's like asking the questions about what they know and what they're capable of doing, diving into their skill set, and then actually reviewing the contract once we do hire somebody. I hate dealing with contracts. I don't know legal jargon and all of that. And so it's been really nice to just have to sign on a line and just let somebody else handle all of that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh it's really hard to find that magical middle between skill set and culture. And I think I've said to you before, like whenever we've hired people in the past, like both people would be wonderful, but this person is the culture fit, right? And like being able to identify things like that is really important, but it's also really hard sometimes. So yeah,
Yeah, it is.
cool. Okay, so any unexpected benefits or light bulb moments that you've had from us working together? Any
Well, huh?
just anything that you were like, well, I didn't think that we'd do that or talk about that or whatever.
I was surprised at how beneficial it was to have you come to our SA Live event that we do. For those watching, it's a big like 2-day painting conference, and we have like 200 plus attendees, and we've done like 5 of these so far. And so I already kind of felt like I had it under my belt and I knew what I was doing. But then having you there on site to kind of be like, well, I noticed this and I noticed that, like you're helping me dial it in even more and make these events streamlined and easier to produce every year. And the planning part of those events is really heavy. So having you kind of especially after having gone to one, to be able to see the whole process from selling the ticket to putting on the event to then taking down the event, it's really nice to have somebody else on the logistical side of the planning and all of that. And so between you and my husband, hopefully I can just show up and teach painting now and I won't have to deal with all the details of it. So that's been an unexpected surprise.
Good, good. Yeah, you guys did such an incredible job with that event. Like me being there, like yes, of course there were things that I'm always going to poke my finger in any hole I can find, right? But at
Yeah.
the same time, I think that like you guys did such an incredible job with that event, but me being there was just like my opportunity to learn too, not just like what we can improve to make it lighter on you, but also like it helped me so much in understanding, and I've said this to you, but understanding our audience because like those are our most die-hard people. They got on a plane or they drove. Some of those ladies told me they drove like 16 hours to be there and
Wow.
hang out with you. Like that is wild, first of all, and that just speaks to the community that you've cultivated in your business and in your online space, and in the Painters Clubhouse, which is, did we say Painters Clubhouse at all this entire time?
I don't think we did. That's the painting membership we've been talking about.
Yes, that is Tamara's core offer. That is her paid membership community, the Painters Clubhouse. But the community that you've built within the clubhouse, like it just speaks to that, right? But it also helped me understand going through the rest of the year and all of our marketing messaging and strategy for marketing all of our other offers, understanding who it is that we're talking to, right? So that was really beneficial for me to not only make the event planning lighter on you, but also like understanding our people more and being able to serve them better as a result.
Yeah, I think it's really helped anybody who's on our team who has come to one of these events. It's helped them feel like a deeper sense of purpose in their job because they now know who they're serving, not just the person in the emails or the person in the comments. Like they're a real person now when you think of my audience. And so it's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had several team members say that to me, and most of them had been there before. I was the newbie,
Yeah. Yeah.
But they even said that they were like, it's just a reminder that like this is not just painting, right? This is so much more than that to these women and these people who are here participating.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So what would you say to any creative CEO or CEO in general who thinks they might be ready to hire an OBM, and have that next level support? What would you tell your business bestie if they were like, I think I need one, but I don't know. I've never worked with one before. I don't know what to expect.
I would say that, like, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, a little in the weeds with all the details and the tasks in your business and the communication. Oh, that was one big thing you helped me do is dial in the communication on my team. We were communicating through Facebook Messenger, email, Voxer, Asana, a Facebook group. I don't know how many channels of communication we were using, but it was so overwhelming. And if you had a conversation about something, you had a hard time remembering where you had that conversation to go retrace your steps. And so, if you're already doing that in your own business as a creative and you're having conversations in 15 different DMs and all this stuff, and you're trying to think like there's got to be a better way, there is. Having an OBM like China on your side is like body doubling yourself, but a better version of yourself. I feel like you're like the living embodiment of like a chat GPT. Like I feel like I could just blurt out something to you and you're like, I got you. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go create an email thing and a blah blah blah. You know how like if you just put some random something in Chat GPT, it comes up with a whole plan for you. You are that for me in person. And that has been the biggest gift because once we really got hit the ground running after that 90 days, we had a list 2 miles long of the things that we could do to improve my business. And I didn't know all of that, China. Before I hired you, I had an OBM, but I didn't know all the things that we could do to improve my business moving forward. And so I bet somebody watching this right now that's a creative has no idea all the things that they could do to improve their business and move it forward to get them unstuck from the place that they're in where they feel like they're on a hamster wheel and they can't make any traction. Having an OBM can really get you out of that rut and also provide you a business therapist that you can talk to about it when it gets hard.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try to not start sobbing and continue this interview. Thank you. Um, yeah, so that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy that you feel that way and that you would advocate for a friend hiring an OBM because of the experience that you've had with me, whether it was me or somebody else, because there are other incredible OBMs out there, but like knowing that that partnership is so critical and like has the opportunity to bring so much empowerment to you and so much support to you is really just incredible. So I'm so happy to know that you feel that way. And all right, deep breath. So is there anything else that you want the people to know about what it's like working with me, what it's the Byte Bodega approach to things, or just like OBMing and partnerships with OBMs in general before I let you go and we wrap up?
I can't really think of anything specific. I guess
Yeah.
I'll say that like if I were to start over again today and start a new business, there's no way I would get more than probably 2 years into that business without an OBM. And I say 2 years just because, you've got to start somewhere and you've got to build it up a bit before you can afford an OBM. But it's the biggest gift. As a business owner, it has taken a ton of weight off of me and allowed me to get back into the joy of creating and this joy of the side of that part of the business that I enjoy more and take all of the heavy stuff that I don't enjoy off my plate. And China's constantly checking in with me and being like, hey, is there anything we can take off your plate that, is starting to feel a little heavy? About once a quarter or twice a year, you've checked in with me and said, are there any like little tasks that you feel like you can pass off? And so we're continually finding things that I'm still doing that somebody else on the team could be doing. And it's making things lighter and easier for me. And it's opening me up to have more time off, but also time to like work on the business and not just in the business to create, innovate, and think of fun new things that we can do in the future.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's about identifying the things that you don't want to do either. I think that's important too. And like I've said to you verbatim, like I remember one specific time you were like, and this always stuck in my brain, and you probably know what I'm talking about, where you were like, I should probably hand that off because it's so small and it would be easy to delegate. But I think I've been holding on to it because I really enjoy it. And I was like, well, then why would you delegate it? I was like,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter that it's small. And it like, yes, of course, like at some point you have to let go of smaller tasks, right? But if it's something that, to use your verbiage, if it brings you joy, if it lights you up, like you don't have a team to just delegate all of the things and like not have to work anymore because one, that's not real. And
Right.
two, like you delegate so that you can do the things that you enjoy doing. I never ever want to open QuickBooks for my own business. Like I
Right.
never want to do that. So I delegate that because I hate doing it. Now, I'll dig through anybody's P&L. Anybody else's, I'll look at it. I don't care. I will dig top to bottom. But like my own business, no, couldn't be me. So like it's about identifying those things, right? And saying like this is what lights me up, so I want to focus on that. And that is, I think, just like the next level to that conversation too, of like knowing that you have the ability to free up that time, but free it up in the way that feels good to you. So yeah.
And I think sometimes there's tasks that we want to get rid of, but we think there's no possible way anybody but me could do this.
Mhm.
And having somebody that's not you, who's not like emotionally involved in the situation, to look at it with fresh eyes and be like, but what if you tried it this way? It kind of just opens up your mind to think, oh, well, I hadn't considered it from that angle. Maybe somebody could take that off my plate and we could just do it a different way. And so that's really great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's part of being in it all day,
Yeah.
every day, right? And
Right.
like having that set of fresh eyes and that sounding board to just like bounce things off of. Because I think that's another challenge that we have as business owners is like you work with your family, so I think that you are a little bit you're not exactly this, right? Because like I know that you can use Michael, your husband, a lot. But like you don't necessarily always have that person to be like, hey, I have this idea, can I talk about it with you to get your thoughts, you know? And we have that in masterminds and stuff, but I think it's different to have somebody that's in the day to day with you every day and seeing how things are operating that can give you a different perspective. And I think that like, and I say this to you a lot whenever you come to me with an idea, I'm like, oh, this has legs to it. I see X, Y, and Z. Go back to your mastermind because I want their perspective too, but they're always going to bring that outsider person is always going to bring a different perspective than the person that's with you in the grind of it every day, you know? So having both of those of like your OBM and that outsider, whether it's mastermind, family, whoever, is really important because you get a new sense of direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And something you just said unlocked something for me that I had forgotten. Uh, the first time I hired an OBM, this was before you, I was at a mastermind and we were having some downtime at the mastermind, and everybody had their laptops out and they were working feverishly. And I'm over there just like sitting on the beach, scrolling in my phone or reading a book. I was totally relaxed, and everybody's like, don't you have to like go implement all this stuff we just talked about? Like, we came up with ideas in the mastermind to implement, and they were like, we've got work to do over here. Like, we've got to work. And I'm like, no, I don't have to work till I get home. And like, all I did was send all this over to my OBM and it's going to get implemented. And they didn't have OBMs in their business. So they were feverishly trying to send all this information to their team of changes to implement, or they were manually implementing those changes themselves.
Mhm.
And so, one of my favorite things about having an OBM, especially you now, and you're, I feel like, better at this than my previous OBM, is when I come home from a mastermind, you're excited to hear my mastermind debrief and you want to hear all those ideas. Sometimes I got the feeling from my previous OBM that, like, oh, here she comes. What's she going to throw at us next? And that's not a good feeling. Like, to feel like there's already somebody up who's like, I don't know if I want to hear all of this. I wanted somebody who was just as fired up and excited about the new things that I had learned as I was. And so you're always that person for me now.
Yeah, well, good, good. Yeah, because like you go to those things, you go to masterminds, you go to retreats and business events to learn how to grow your business. If I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't supporting you in your ideas for how to get your business to the next level, right?
Mhm.
And that's just a piece of that. And I absolutely see what you're saying in like all of your business besties like at the mastermind like feverishly typing because it's like you remove that whole piece of like, how do I make this happen? Because all you need to know, and correct me if I'm wrong, because now I'm just like talking for you, but like all you really have to think about is like, oh, this is the concept that I want to implement.
Mhm.
And just communicating that to me and then me saying, okay, like I might have some clarifying questions for you, which is normal. Like you come back from those and you give me the full debrief and I'm like, okay, well, like how do you envision this and how do you envision that? And I want to make sure that I understand what you're seeing. But then from there, I'm just like, okay, like I'll take this and I'll let you know if we have any more questions. And then I kind of delegate that out to the team. But whenever you don't have that person, that OBM, then
Mhm.
you become that person. So you would go into like tippy tappy feverish mode because you're trying to do that bigger piece yourself, right? So I can for sure understand that and see that.
Yeah. And I remember they looked at me while they're typing on their laptops and they're like, why aren't you having to work? And I said, well, I'm just going to give all this over to my OBM and she's going to implement it. And they were like, what's an OBM? How do we get one of those? And it was funny because at the time I didn't know any other OBMs. And so I didn't, and it was kind of this elusive thing. Like, how do you get an OBM? Nobody knew how to find an OBM.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, there's every OBM does it differently too. And I think that's one of the challenges for business owners that are looking for that kind of support because like there are business owner or there are OBMs that work in like a smaller capacity. And then there's OBMs that do more of like the full integrator work that I do. And neither is wrong, but it's like finding the person that has the type of support that you need, I think is the biggest challenge because everybody's coming up with a new name for OBMs now. It's OBM and fractional COO and like integrator and director of operate like everybody has a new name now. But I
yeah.
think it's really about like finding the person that has the support structure that you need. But that is I do think that that makes it hard for business owners to hire.
I'm sure you're aware of that book, Rocket Fuel.
Hmm.
That one. Yeah. I listened to the audiobook of that years ago. And at the time, I knew I was the visionary. I knew I was meant to be the visionary, but I was still stuck halfway in that integrator role. And the OBM I had at the time was, like you were saying, like a different level of OBM. And I knew I wanted to work to the point where I had a true integrator and I was truly like a visionary. I can't say that I'm 100% the visionary because I am the face of the business and the creative in the business. So I don't know if I'll ever only be the visionary. But I'm okay with that. I'm just glad I don't have to deal with the day-to-day details.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. It's about finding the balance that works for you, right? There is no that is the beauty of being a business owner and a CEO is you get to decide where your lines stop and where how it is that you want to run your business. So if you're 90% visionary and 10% integrator forever and that works for
Yeah.
you, I think that's fine.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you want to chat about? I don't want to hold you any longer than necessary. But thank you so much for just meeting with me, sharing all of this. I can like comfortably go cry in private now after all the nice things that you've said. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to tell the family before I let you go?
I don't think so. I could keep talking all of the good things that I love about you and the way you've made my life easier for days, but then we'd end up in tears on this call. So I'll stop now.
Go cry over Voxer later today in
We
private.
have done that before.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so, so much. I'm sure we will talk later today about business things. And yeah, thank you all for watching. If you're still here, I appreciate you. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions about working with me or hiring an OBM. I'd be happy to share whatever it is that I can to be supportive. And thank you all so much. Bye.